Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're diving deep into Gandhi's movements for Indian independence.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
It is, especially if you're prepping for the UPSC GS1 Modern Indian History exam. But honestly, even if you're not,
It's just the fascinating part of history, right?
totally. India's path to freedom and how nonviolent resistance played such a huge role.
It's a story everyone should know.
Exactly. And speaking of knowing, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel.
And that notification bell, so you don't miss our future deep dives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, I'm really excited to have an expert with us today.
Oh, thank you.
Someone who can really bring these historical events to life.
I'll do my best.
So, picture this. Early 20th century, India under British rule. Enter Mahatma Gandhi.
And it's not like the fight for independence just appeared out of nowhere.
Right, there was a buildup.
Decades of growing unrest, different approaches, all these leaders trying to figure out
How to challenge the British.
Exactly.
And then Gandhi arrives in 1915. He's fresh off those successful satyagraha campaigns in South Africa.
But he doesn't just jump right into the political scene, does he?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Instead, he takes a year-long journey across India,
Really immersing himself in the lives of ordinary people,
listening to their struggles.
getting a feel for the nation,
That's powerful, right?
Yeah.
A leader choosing to listen first.
Absolutely. And that's a core part of understanding Gandhi, his whole philosophy.
His impact.
It's a shift from that elite-driven nationalism
To a movement of the people.
by the people.
Now let's talk about this term that's basically synonymous with Gandhi. Satyagraha.
Satyagraha.
What is it exactly, and how did it become such a force for change?
Truth force is the literal meaning.
Right.
And a lot of people oversimplify it as just passive resistance,
It's
but
deeper than that.
it's about using truth and morality.
Appealing to your oppressor's conscience.
Without violence, no matter how brutal things get.
So not weakness, but strength of different kind.
Exactly. You need immense courage, discipline.
That unwavering belief in your principles.
Gandhi truly believed that moral force could overpower any physical force.
Makes sense. But how did this philosophy actually play out? Good question. Let's look at one of Gandhi's early satyagraha campaigns. The Champaran Satyagraha in 1917.
The imperant.
What was happening there, and how did Gandhi get involved?
Okay, so imagine this. Indigo farmers in Champaran, Bihar, are forced into the system.
The Kinkathiya system.
Yeah, where they have to grow indigo on part of their land.
Trapped in debt.
No power against those British planters.
Sounds incredibly unjust. How does Gandhi enter the picture?
So there's this local farmer, Rajkumar Shukla. He
Determined
keeps begging Gandhi to come see what's happening.
to see the farmer's struggles.
And, well, Gandhi, as we know, can't ignore a call for justice.
You just can't.
He arrives and immediately defies the British authorities who tell him to leave.
Bold move.
He starts investigating, gathering evidence of this exploitation, and rallies the farmers to demand their rights.
That's a direct challenge. Did the British just let him do that?
Nope, they arrested him, but that just made the movement stronger.
I
The sheer number of protests, the farmers' commitment, all the media attention. It forced the British to negotiate.
Wow. Did the Satyagraha actually achieve its goals?
It was a success. The Tinkavia system was abolished,
Farmers got compensated.
and Gandhi showed everyone he was a leader who would fight for the vulnerable.
But it wasn't just about that win, right? There was a larger impact.
Absolutely. Champaran became a symbol of hope, showing the world that you can resist oppression peacefully.
Inspiring others to fight for freedom.
And other leaders to join the movement.
Like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
So what's next in this chain of satyagrahas?
Fast forward to 1918, the Ahmedabad mill strike. Textile workers are demanding better wages.
Better working conditions.
And Gandhi introduces a new tactic, fasting unto death.
Wait, fasting until death? That seems incredibly risky.
It was a dramatic way for him to show how much he believed in this cause.
By risking his own life.
Putting that moral pressure on the mill owners.
Forcing them to face the consequences.
And it worked. The mill owners gave in to the workers' demands.
Cementing Gandhi's image as a champion for the oppressed.
A brilliant strategist.
2 successful satyagrahas in a row. He's on a roll.
He is. And then we have the Kheda Satyagraha, same year, 1918.
Okay.
This time, it's peasants in Kheda, Gujarat. They're hit with crop failures, demanding tax relief from the British.
So another fight for economic justice.
Right, and this one is fascinating because we see Gandhi introduced non-cooperation.
Non-cooperation, huh?
He guides these peasants to refuse to pay taxes, basically disrupting the British administration.
That's a bold move.
It is. Protesting is one thing, but refusing to participate in the system altogether.
Takes it to another level.
Exactly. The Quetta Satyagraha might not be as famous as Champaran or Ahmedabad.
But it's a turning point.
A shift in Gandhi's approach. It paves the way for the larger non-cooperation movement a few years down the line.
And it shows how he's evolving his strategies, going beyond symbolic protests.
Finding ways to actually disrupt the British government's ability to rule.
These early satyagrahas, each unique in their own way, are like stepping stones towards this larger movement.
Exactly. And you can see Gandhi's strategic mind at work.
It's not just about him, though. We're starting to see other key players emerge who will become crucial in the fight for independence.
You're right. Figures like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who played a key role in Quetta.
And Rajendra Prasad, who rose to prominence during Champaran.
They're becoming essential to the movement.
So we have a national movement building, Gandhi's tactics are evolving, and a powerful team is coming together.
Things are definitely heating up.
I have a feeling things are about to get even more intense.
Buckle up, because the stage is set for a major showdown with the British.
The fight for freedom is about to erupt on a much larger scale.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore the lead-up to the non-cooperation movement.
And see how Gandhi's vision of a free India starts taking shape.
Welcome back to our deep dive. Those early satyagrahas, they really were like, setting the stage.
Yeah, like sparks igniting a much bigger fire.
Exactly. It's 1919, and tensions are high. We left off with Gandhi gaining momentum, those successful campaigns.
So what happens next that really pushes things toward a nationwide movement?
Well, imagine the frustration when the British government, instead of, listening to the demands for self-rule, they enact this thing called the Rowlatt Act.
The Rowlatt Act. For our listeners who might not be familiar,
Right.
Can you break down what it was and why it caused so much controversy?
Basically, the Rowlatt Act was this super harsh law.
Like draconian.
Yeah, totally. It gave the British these crazy powers to arrest and detain people they suspected of sedition.
Sedition.
Basically speaking out against the government. And get this, they could do it without a trial.
Wow. So they could just silence anyone they wanted?
Pretty much. It was a way to shut down any opposition before it even got started.
It sounds like they were trying to hold on to power even tighter.
Exactly. The Rowlatt Act was seen as a direct attack on freedom, a blatant attempt to crush the growing nationalistic sentiment.
So how did Gandhi respond? He wasn't exactly known for backing down.
Oh, absolutely not. The Rowlatt Act, it was a turning point. Gandhi saw it as this, complete disregard for Indian rights.
So he called for another nationwide satyagraha.
Against this unjust law. Yep.
And I'm guessing the response was huge,
Yeah.
given how outrageous this act was.
You bet. People from all walks of life, students, lawyers, merchants, farmers, everyone joined these protests. It was this incredible unified resistance.
But I'm guessing the British didn't just stand back and watch.
No, it was met with brutal repression.
This is where we come to a really dark chapter. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre.
Yeah.
For our listeners, especially those prepping for the UPSC exam, this event is crucial to understand.
Absolutely. It's April 13th, 1919. There's this large peaceful gathering in Amritsar.
At Jallianwala Bagh.
Right. Unarmed men, women, children, all protesting the Rowlatt Act. And then British troops under General Dyer.
They surround the garden.
Yeah, this enclosed space.
Yeah.
And without any warning.
They open fire on the crowd.
Just imagine that, a peaceful gathering turning into this horrific scene.
It's hard to even fathom.
They fired for about 10 minutes straight, hundreds dead, thousands injured.
It's a horrifying reminder of the brutality of colonial rule.
It really shattered any remaining illusions about the British being benevolent rulers.
This event must have been a turning point in the fight for independence.
Oh, absolutely. It ignited this firestorm of anger and resentment across India.
The desire for Swaraj, for self-rule, just intensified.
Any trust in the British system, it was completely gone.
So how did this translate into Gandhi's strategy? What was his next move?
Well, this is where the non-cooperation movement comes in, launched in 1920.
The non-cooperation movement. That's a huge turning point in the struggle for independence, right?
Absolutely. It was a bold experiment, this mass mobilization and civil disobedience.
And for our UPSC folks, it's key to not just know the events, but also the ideas behind it, the strategies.
Right. So Gandhi, he calls upon all Indians to withdraw their cooperation from the British administration.
To boycott their goods and institutions.
Everything. Schools, courts, government services.
So it wasn't just about protesting. It was about creating a parallel system.
You got it. A self-reliant India.
This is a huge undertaking.
It was. It required so much coordination, this unified front across the entire country.
What were some of the specific things they did during the non-cooperation movement? It must have gone beyond just boycotting British products.
Oh, yeah, it was multifaceted. They boycotted British institutions like students leaving government schools, lawyers boycotting courts, government servants resigning.
Wow.
Then there was the promotion of Swadeshi,
It
means of one's own country. The emphasis was on using Indian-made goods, especially khadi, the hand-spun cloth,
to boost the Indian economy?
and challenge British economic dominance. And they also tackled social issues,
Like what?
like untouchability and advocating for Hindu-Muslim unity.
So it wasn't just about political independence, but social change too.
Exactly. They realized a divided nation couldn't fight for freedom effectively.
So was the non-cooperation movement ultimately successful? Did it achieve those goals?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. It was incredibly successful in mobilizing the masses, disrupting the British administration.
Sounds like it really shook things up.
It did. People from every corner of India, from villages to cities, participated. But there are some downsides.
There were.
Yeah. While it was largely nonviolent, there were instances of violence.
I see where this is going, the Chari Chora incident.
Right. In 1922, this group of protesters in Chari Chora clashed with the police. Several policemen were killed.
And this really troubled Gandhi.
Deeply. He believed in nonviolence, absolutely.
So it was a betrayal of those core principles.
Exactly. And Gandhi, he blamed himself, for not instilling that discipline of nonviolence in everyone.
So he called off the movement.
It was a drastic step, and a lot of people criticized him for it, for abandoning it at its peak.
It's a tough call. A movement with so much potential suddenly stopped. How did this impact the overall struggle for independence?
Even though it ended abruptly, the non-cooperation movement was still a major turning point.
How so?
It showed the power of mass mobilization, instilled this national unity, and really damaged British authority.
Okay, so even though it didn't lead to immediate independence,
It laid the groundwork for future movements.
and cemented Gandhi's leadership.
He became the undisputed leader of the Indian nationalist movement.
We're seeing how his strategies are evolving, and the movement itself is becoming more sophisticated.
Definitely.
It's not just localized protests anymore.
It's a full-on challenge to British rule.
But as you said, the path to freedom, it's rarely smooth.
Nope. There are always setbacks.
Tough decisions.
So, after the non-cooperation movement, the struggle takes on a new phase.
Okay.
The demand for Purna Swaraj, for complete independence, that becomes the rallying cry.
Full independence, no compromises.
Right. And Gandhi, along with the Indian National Congress, they start preparing for another confrontation with the British.
But this time,
It revolves around something you might not expect. Salt.
salt. That's interesting. I feel like there's always a deeper meaning with Gandhi,
Oh, there is. Stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive.
where we'll explore the civil disobedience movement and that iconic salt satyagraha. We're back with the deep dive, and things are getting salty.
You could say that.
Last time, we left off with India on the verge of another major movement. And at the center of it all,
Salt.
yeah, salt. It seems strange, but it became this powerful symbol.
It's 1930, and the call for Purna Swaraj, complete independence, is growing louder.
So how does salt, this everyday thing, become a focal point?
Well, the British had this salt tax. Indians couldn't make their own salt,
They had to buy it from the British.
even though salt was plentiful along India's coastline.
So basically, controlling a basic necessity, exploiting people for profit.
Exactly. It was deeply unpopular, a symbol of British oppression.
And Gandhi, being the strategic mastermind he was, he saw an opportunity.
He knew this could mobilize people.
So what was his plan? How did he use salt to challenge this massive empire?
He launches the Salt Satyagraha, also known as the Dandi March.
The Dandi March.
March 1930, Gandhi sets off from his ashram in Sabarmati with his followers.
A 240-mile journey to the coast to Dandi.
Imagine that, 240 miles on foot.
That's a statement in itself.
And the goal, to break the salt law by making salt from seawater at Dandi,
Such a symbolic act of defiance.
challenging the British head-on.
I bet the whole world was watching this unfold. How did the Indian people react?
The response was incredible. People joined the march along the way.
Thousands joining in.
And back home, millions were participating in their own ways, making salt, boycotting goods.
Refusing to pay taxes.
The movement just exploded.
Salt really did become a symbol of unity and resistance.
It did.
So how did the British react to this? I'm guessing they weren't happy.
Oh, they were furious. They cracked down hard, arresting thousands, including Gandhi himself.
Trying to crush the movement.
Using force against peaceful protesters.
Images of that brutality spread worldwide.
And it only fueled the Indian people's anger.
So the civil disobedience movement, it went on for over a year, despite this crackdown.
Yeah.
What were some of the lasting impacts of this movement?
Oh, it had a huge impact. First, it really weakened British authority. It showed that their control was slim.
They couldn't just do whatever they wanted anymore.
Right. Second, it put India's struggle on the global stage. People around the world started paying attention.
Sympathizing with the cause.
Third, it empowered women. They played a huge role in the movement, challenging those traditional norms.
Showing their commitment to freedom.
And lastly, it raised political awareness across India, especially among the masses.
This idea of complete independence, it was no longer just a dream, it was the goal.
Exactly.
So even though it didn't lead to immediate independence, the civil disobedience movement was a crucial step.
It paved the way for what was to come.
All right, let's fast forward to 1942. World War II is raging.
Yeah, things are tense.
India's future is uncertain. What happens during this time that leads us to that final push for independence?
The British, they realize they need India's cooperation in the war effort.
Makes sense.
So they send Sir Stafford Cripps to India with an offer, Dominion status after the war.
Dominion status. So, like partial independence, not the real deal.
Right.
What did Indian leaders think of this?
Gandhi and the Congress, they rejected it outright. They saw it as too little, too late.
They wanted full independence, and they wanted it now.
Exactly. The stakes were high, and there was no room for compromise.
This is where we get to one of Gandhi's most powerful calls to action, the Quit India movement.
Quit India.
It said it all.
It does. August 1942, Gandhi delivers his famous do or die speech.
Do or die, that's serious.
He urged Indians to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost.
Wow, there's no mistaking his determination.
And the Quit India movement, it was different from his previous campaigns.
How so?
Nonviolence was still the core principle, but it was more assertive.
Like they were ready to take bigger risks.
Yeah. So how did the British react?
Probably not well.
Nope. Arrests, bans, full-on repression. They tried to crush the movement.
But it didn't just disappear, did it?
Not at all. It went underground.
People found ways to resist.
Students, peasants, workers, even some government officials. Sabotage, protests.
They even set up their own governments in some areas.
It was remarkable. The British were losing control.
The spirit of resistance was too strong to contain.
Exactly. The Quit India movement, it might not have achieved immediate independence, but it delivered a massive blow to British rule.
It showed how determined the Indian people were.
And it, along with all the global shifts happening with the war, well, it made India's independence inevitable.
It's amazing to see how these movements, step by step, chipped away at British power and empower the Indian people.
It's a testament to the power of collective action.
Of never giving up on the fight for a better future.
And it's important to remember, Gandhi's movements, they weren't just about political freedom.
There was a deeper purpose.
It was about empowering people, challenging injustice, and upholding those core values of truth, nonviolence, and unity.
What an incredible journey through this crucial part of history.
It really is.
For our UPSC listeners out there, understanding these movements is key for the exam.
Definitely.
But for everyone, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the sacrifices made, the strategies used,
and the lasting legacy of India's struggle for freedom.
We encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating chapter of history.
Dig deeper into those events, learn about the people involved.
And remember, understanding the past, it's not just about memorizing facts and dates.
It's about connecting with those human stories.
The triumphs and the tragedies that have shaped our world.
And how they continue to resonate today.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.